Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, July 9th, 2022. Fire potential impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. The main things we're dealing with are continued wind gusts across much of eastern Nevada, western Utah, and even up into eastern Idaho and Wyoming today. The wind lightens up a bit after today, except over southeast Idaho. But then the next factor to consider is the heat that we'll be building in. So very hot today in Utah, highs up to 105 in Salt Lake. Heat continues across the south on Sunday and then makes a pretty big surge north and westward on Monday with very hot temperatures across much of the area. We also do have some lightning returning starting on Sunday in far southeast Utah, and then on Monday it moves a little bit further westward over the higher elevations of south central Utah. Past 24 hours were very quiet, really no storms to speak of. Fire activity picked up a bit yesterday with fires in western Utah. In fact, a couple of these here in west central Utah were rather large, around at least about 1,000 acres each, with those strong gusty winds and very warm and dry conditions. Past 7 days of precip are shown here. For the first week or so of July, we would expect to see a little bit more precip as the monsoon normally is already getting into full swing by this time, but the monsoon's been strange this year, and the first week of July has been on the dry side. A little bit of precip in far eastern Utah, but pretty dry elsewhere. ERCs are reflecting this dried pattern. Over far northwest Nevada, conditions have been dry, but right around normal for the time of year, with the influence of some cooler low pressure systems having moved into the Pacific Northwest there. Further south and east, however, over west central Utah, those values have skyrocketed over the last week or so, with values up to the 97th percentile, just a bit below the historical records there. So it's been hot, dry, and very windy for an extended period of time in western Utah, and that's definitely had an impact on vegetation there and the fire danger indices. This morning's satellite imagery shows the high pressure ridge in place over the central U.S. This ridge is a bit stronger today than yesterday, and we will see temperatures even warmer today in the eastern half of the Great Basin than they were yesterday. Again, close to record setting with highs around 105 today in Salt Lake. There's a low, kind of a weak trough here over the Pacific Northwest, keeping things not as hot on the western half of the basin. So for this afternoon, high-risk triggers have been issued again for eastern Nevada and western Utah for those gusty winds and low relative humidities, and it's going to be very hot, especially on the east side of the basin. A closer look at the winds shows just where we're expecting those really gusty conditions, with gusts up to 35-40 miles an hour over east central Nevada and into western and northern Utah, and even a bit stronger there over southeast Idaho and western Wyoming. Maximum temperatures shown on the right here have us at a high of 105 in Salt Lake today, quite a bit cooler over Nevada with highs in the mid-90s and further north as well. On Sunday, more of the same is expected. Really hot temperatures region-wide. We will begin to see a little bit more moisture squeaking into far southeast Utah. The winds relax a bit on Sunday with no high-risk triggers issued. Minimum relative humidities remain quite low through much of the period, especially over Nevada, where single-digit relative humidities are expected. And on Sunday, we can see just a little bit of precip starting to move into far southeast Utah. On Monday, the high-pressure ridge expands further northward and westward, bringing temperatures up over the western half of the Great Basin, and we begin to see the center of the high pressure moving a little bit further westward, which will allow some moisture into the south central Utah mountains for an increase in thunderstorm activity there. We may have to issue high risk as we get closer to midweek next week as this moisture remains in place. So on Monday, really the only area we're expecting the thunderstorms to develop is over the south central Utah mountains. And maximum temperatures are shown here on the right. Very hot there over western Nevada, with highs around 100 degrees in Reno. A little bit cooler, slightly cooler anyway, over Idaho and Utah. 3-day precip totals are shown here. Not really expecting any significant precipitation at all in the 3-day period. As we head into Tuesday of next week, the high pressure system is going to remain the big story for the bulk of the work week next week, and we'll begin to see, or continue to see, a little bit of moisture moving up into south central Utah for, again, daily afternoon thunderstorms over the higher elevations there in far south central Utah and the Arizona Strip. That pattern continues into Wednesday. We may start to see the moisture moving a little bit further northward and eastward, with a chance for an isolated strike or two possibly over southern Nevada. On Thursday, we see a little bit of a more significant change as a stronger push of moisture moves northward into central and northern Utah and even across eastern Nevada. We'll be keeping a close eye on this day, as conditions this far north in the basin have been very dry and very hot for a while now, so any increase in thunderstorm activity could definitely result in new initial attack and even the potential for new large fires. So we'll be watching this moisture surge on Thursday quite closely. And then on Thursday, moisture hangs, on Friday, the moisture will hang around for a continued chance for some thunderstorms across much of the eastern half of the Great Basin. It looks like western Nevada up into western Idaho will stay on the dry side. There is another trough moving into the Pacific Northwest, which could increase winds over the western half of the basin again. And 7-day totals are shown here. Best chance for precip in the 7 days is really the higher elevations of Utah, with those daily thunderstorms beginning to increase starting on Tuesday. Arizona Strip could see some thunderstorms, and portions of western Utah and central Nevada will see maybe some isolated drier type thunderstorms in that Thursday to Friday time frame. So we'll be keeping a closer eye on that potential. And then the extended forecast for July 16th through the 22nd continues to put the bullseye of temperature over the central U.S., but still very warm over the Great Basin. And we see that monsoon signal in place still, keeping some thunderstorm activity over southern and eastern Utah with drier conditions for the north and west. And that concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.